Today I'm going to walk through dynamic data masking in Microsoft SQL Server, what it is, how it works, how we can control who sees sensitive data without changing the actual stored values. In many environments, not everyone who has select access should see things like social security numbers, salary, emails, or phone numbers. We want visibility, but not full exposure. That's where dynamic data masking comes in. Introduced in SQL Server 2016, dynamic data masking is a security feature that masks sensitive data at query time. The key thing to remember here is the data is not changed in storage. It's only masked when it's returned in result sets. Remember that dynamic data masking is not encryption. It's not changing the data. It's presentation layer security inside SQL Server. Think of dynamic data masking as SQL Server putting sunglasses on certain columns, depending on who's looking. I think that's a great analogy to remember. So there are a few concepts to understand before we dive into the demo. It's dynamic, which means masking happens at query time. It's non-destructive. The data stays intact in the table. It's permission-based. The unmasked permission controls who sees real values. It's transparent. Applications don't need to change. The masking is transparent. Now, let's actually see this in action. Here, I'm creating a simple table called employee contacts. Notice that the masking rules are defined directly at the column level. Here, the email function automatically masks email format. The partial function lets us control what part stays visible. The random function helps me pick any random value, in this particular case between 40,000 and 120,000. So this script creates a table where sensitive columns have masking rules applied. The actual data is stored normally, but will appear masked to unauthorized users. Now, let's insert some data and see what happens. At this point, if I query this as a privileged user like sysadmin, I will see the actual values. But that's not the real test. The real test is what different users see. So next, I'm gonna create test users. I'm creating 3 test users to simulate different roles in an organization. Regular user, who is a basic employee, manager user, who will have partial visibility, and HR user, who will have full visibility. Here, for the purpose of the demonstration, there will not be any logins. Okay, it's for testing purpose. I will simply create these 3 users without login. And all of them get select permission. Here I'm granting select permission on this table to these 3 users that we created. So this script creates test users and grants basic read access, but without mask permission, they will see masked data. None of them automatically get unmasked. Now, I'm executing this as a regular user. Notice the email, phone, social security number, and salary are masked. The salary is even randomized each time. This shows masking is dynamic. It's happening at runtime, not because the data is stored differently. Let's step it up. Now, here, manager user. I'm gonna grant UNMASK permission only on email and phone. This is granular security. I'm not giving full visibility, just email and phone number. Now, let's run this query as manager user. Notice the email and phone are now visible, but social security number and salary remain masked. This is powerful. We can control exposure at the column level. Now, let's look at full access. Here, I'm going to grant UNMASK on this table to HR user. Now, HR sees everything, including salary and social security number. Again, no data changed in storage. Only the results changed based on permissions. Now, let's see how SQL Server tracks this internally. The sysmasked columns system view captures which columns are masked and what masking function is applied. See, we can see which columns are masked and what masking function has been applied on every column in the table. Next, let's add some data into the table. And execute this query as regular user. One important thing is masking automatically applies to new data. There is nothing additional to configure. Even newly inserted rows are masked immediately. Next, we can modify the masking function, right? Masking rules are not permanent. We can modify them. As soon as we alter the column function, the column definition, the new masking rule applies instantly. There is no downtime and no data rewrites. Before wrapping up, let's talk about advantages and limitations. Like I said, dynamic data masking is not encryption. If someone has backup access or sysadmin rights, they can still see the real data. Dynamic data masking applies to on-prem SQL Server, Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Managed Instance. So masking is great for display level protection, but for storage protection, you still need encryption like TDE and always encrypted. In production, dynamic data masking should be part of a broader security strategy, which includes principle of least privilege, regular audits of UNMASK, combining with encryption, monitoring sensitive data access. To summarize, dynamic data masking provides runtime protection of sensitive data controlled by permissions without modifying underlying data and application code. It's lightweight, easy to implement, and very effective when used correctly. Any questions? That concludes my presentation on dynamic data masking for today. This is my very first video. If you find it helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I will be sharing more SQL Server and database related content in the coming weeks and months. Peace out.